You want us to stop? Sorry, we've only just begun warming up. The chilling silence of the council chamber shattered like glass under the weight of Captain John Bulldog Mason's defiant declaration. As Earth's appointed representative, Mason's words echoed across the vast oval-shaped room, where a kaleidoscope of alien delegates had gathered under the banner of diplomacy. A ripple of stunned murmurs spread like wildfire through the assembly, each voice a flicker of disbelief. The request for a ceasefire had come from the Galactic Council itself, the highest governing authority in known space. They hadn't anticipated such raw defiance. At the center of the chamber, High Chancellor Zor, of the Quasar Dominion N, ethereal being composed of luminous energy, brightened in agitation. His voice, translated for all to hear, carried a deep, resonant timbre that silenced the murmurs and commanded attention. Captain Mason, Zor said sternly, we implore you to reconsider. The conflict has already reached unprecedented levels of destruction. We summoned this meeting to negotiate peace. Mason leaned back in his chair, the corners of his mouth curling into a smirk. His casual demeanor clashed with the ceremonial order of the chamber. Destruction. You've seen nothing yet. Earth has only just united under one banner. For the first time, we have a common enemy and, I've got to say, it's been quite the bonding experience. To his right, the Martian ambassador, a bipedal insectoid, encased in a shimmering carapace, clicked his mandibles nervously. Humans, he said, with a metallic tremor, this war has cost trillions of lives. Entire systems lie in ruin. Surely, there must be a better way to channel your vigor. Mason's eyes narrowed, his smirk remaining like a scar across his face. Look, Ambassador, I appreciate the concern, but you don't get it. For centuries, humanity tore itself apart over land, resources, beliefs. When your kind showed up, it was like gods had descended. Suddenly, we had purposed something to unify us. And let me tell you, there's nothing more dangerous than a species with something to prove. Unease swept across the chamber. The representative of the verdant collective, a gaseous being housed in a floating containment, orb flashed through a spectrum of anxious hues. Captain Mason, it pulsed. We understand your historical context. However, this conflict now threatens the stability of the entire galaxy. We must find resolution. Mason chuckled, a low, ominous sound. Resolution. The only resolution we see is total victory. Our scientists are working non-stop. Our factories churn out war machines. Our soldiers are itching for a fight. If you want peace, convince the Caxian Empire to surrender. The mention of the Caxians sparked another round of hushed arguments. The Reptilian Empire, aggressive and expansionist, had ignited the first spark of this galactic war. Their thirst for conquest had plunged the galaxy into chaos. High Chancellor Zor dimmed in intensity, signaling deep contemplation. Captain Mason, he said gravely, the Creon delegation has expressed willingness to open diplomatic channels. They recognize your species' tenacity and resilience. Perhaps we can mediate dialogue between your two races. The smirk on Mason's face vanished. What replaced it was something colder, harder. Dialogue. The Caxians bombed our colonies, slaughtered civilians, pushed us to the brink. We don't want dialogue. We want justice. They started this war, we're going to finish it. Suddenly, the chamber lights dimmed. A holographic projection materialized above the central dais. Emperor Zorx of the Caxian Empire appeared, his scales gleaming under the artificial light. Eyes slitted and sharp. Human representative, he hissed. We meet at last. Mason stood tall, his jaw clenched. Emperor Zorx, here to beg for mercy. Zorx bared his fangs in a growl. Mercy. We Caxians do not beg. We have fought for millennia long before your kind crawled from its oceans. But we recognize a formidable opponent when we see one. We propose an armistice. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. Every representative turned toward Mason. He didn't flinch. Rising to his full height, he addressed Zorx directly. Armistice? You mean a temporary pause so you can regroup and strike again? Not happening. You either surrender, unconditionally, or we fight until one of us is wiped from existence. Zorx's eyes ignited with fury. Do not underestimate us, human. We have resources and allies you cannot begin to comprehend. A prolonged war will mean mutual destruction. Mason stepped forward, his voice low and resolute. We've been underestimating ourselves for too long. This war has shown us what we're capable of. If mutual destruction is the price, so be it. But make no mistake, we will not stop until we've achieved total victory. The chamber erupted into chaos. Voices rose in a storm of debate, outrage, and pleading. High Chancellor Zor's voice thundered over the noise. Order. We must maintain order. Mason remained motionless, his gaze locked on Zorx's image. Your move, Emperor. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. Zorx's holographic projection flickered. His expression was unreadable. Very well, human. If it is war you seek, war you shall have. But no, this the Kavoyan Empire will not fall easily. With that, the image vanished, leaving behind a stunned silence. Zor turned slowly to Mason, his glow subdued. Captain Mason, you must understand the gravity of the situation. The galaxy cannot endure endless war. Mason nodded. I understand perfectly, Chancellor. But humanity has finally found its purpose, and we're not about to let go of it. As the council adjourned, the alien representatives filed out one by one. In the days that followed the explosive council meeting, Captain Mason returned to the command ship of the human expeditionary fleet, the USS Resolute, docked at the edge of a massive asteroid field. The Resolute served as the strategic nerve center of Earth's war machine. As Mason stepped aboard, he was greeted by crisp salutes and status reports from his officers. But his mind had already surged ahead to the next phase of the conflict. The war room aboard the Resolute pulsed with activity. Holographic projections hovered in midair, displaying conflict zones, fleet trajectories, and enemy positions in a vivid three-dimensional map of the galaxy. At the center stood Mason, flanked by his most trusted commanders, Admiral Thomas Wright, a weathered tactician with sharp eyes and sharper instincts, and General Marcus Hayes, commander of the ground forces, whose broad frame and steely glare exuded raw strength. Admiral Wright gestured to the central display, zooming in on a star system cloaked in violet mist. Captain, our scouts have pinpointed a vulnerability. The Caxian's main shipyards in the EVA Nebula are fortified, but their supply lines are stretched thin. If we hit those, we cripple their ability to build and repair. General Hayes nodded grimly. Our troops are ready. We've drilled for this. Fast and hard. We'll knock the wind out of them before they even blink. Mason studied the map, calculating risks and opportunities. We need to move decisively. Hit them fast. Force them on the defensive. But be ready, they won't take this lying down. Wright tapped another region of the map. Intel suggests they're massing near the Draken Belt. If we strike the EVA supply lines, they might pull back to protect their assets, opening a window. Mason's eyes lit with grim resolve. Then we launch Operation Severance. Admiral, coordinate the fleet. General, ready your strike teams. We hit them at dawn. The war room dispersed into action. Mason remained, his eyes drifting to the stars beyond the viewport. Earth had once been divided, fragile. Now it stood united, deadly and ready to reshape the galaxy. Hours later, the human fleet assembled in silence. A constellation of battleships, cruisers, and support vessels, bristling with anticipation. At the helm of the Resolute, Mason stood firm, the quiet heartbeat of a storm yet to come. All ships report ready, Captain, announced Lieutenant Connor from communications. Green across the board. Mason nodded. Set course for the EVA Nebula. engage on my mark. Engines flared to life, and the fleet surged forward. The journey through the void was tense and uneventful calm before the storm. As they neared the swirling gas clouds of the nebula, alarms sounded and shields activated. Battle stations, Mason commanded. Admiral Wright, take us in. Keep the formation tight, we can't afford to get separated in that soup. The human fleet plunged into the nebula's roiling clouds. Sensor readings scrambled under electromagnetic interference, but their advantage lay in surprise, and they used it well. Emerging near the Caxian shipyards, they found the enemy fleet. Unprepared, caught off guard, the Caxians scrambled to respond, but it was already too late. All ships opened fire. The void exploded into light and death. Plasma bolts, missile trails, and laser blasts lit up the darkness. The human fleet, disciplined and precise, pressed the attack. Caxian vessels erupted in fire, their lines collapsing under the relentless barrage. General Hayes launched his assault. Dropships stormed the enemy's surface facilities, deploying squads of battle-hardened soldiers. Combat raged in corridors and landing bays. The humans, driven by fury, purpose, and vengeance, fought like warriors of myth. Admiral, Mason called, eyes locked on the tactical display. Concentrate fire on their command ships. Disrupt their coordination. Wright relayed the orders. The Resolute's cannons locked on a dreadnought, massive, armored, and bristling with weapons. In a focused volley, its shields buckled and cracked. One final blast tore the flagship apart in a blinding explosion. Captain, came Hayes's voice through comms. The shipyards are ours. Their defenses are down. Resistance is scattered. We're clearing them out. A rare smile touched Mason's lips. Excellent, General. Begin dismantling their facilities. I want nothing left for them to rebuild. But the victory was short-lived. Captain, incoming transmission, Connor announced. It's the Galactic Council. Mason's jaw tightened. Put it through. Hi. Chancellor Zor's image materialized once more, his glow flickering with frustration. Captain Mason, we've received reports of your actions in the EVA Nebula. The Council demands an explanation. Mason met the Chancellor's gaze without flinching. With all due respect, Chancellor, we're not looking for approval. We're looking for victory. The Caxians wanted a war. We're giving them one. If they want peace, they know where to find us. Zor's glow surged, frustration bleeding into desperation. This war threatens the entire galaxy. Captain, we must find a way to end it. We will, Mason said, his voice ironclad. On our terms. The weeks that followed were a blur of fire and fury. Skirmishes flared across dozens of systems, but Earth's momentum had become unstoppable. The Caxians reeled, but they had not fallen. On the bridge of the Resolute, Mason stood once more, hands clasped behind his back, as reports streamed in. Captain, said Connor, incoming from Admiral Wright. On screen, the Admiral's face appeared, grim and shadowed. Captain, we've confirmed a massive Caxian fleet gathering near the Draken Belt. 3 times our size. They're preparing for a decisive strike. Mason didn't blink. We can't beat that fleet. Head up. We'll outthink them. Use their numbers against them. General Hayes stepped forward, pointing to a cluster of asteroid fields. We've identified choke points. If we lure them into the field, we can turn the terrain against them. The trap was set. When the Caxian fleet arrived, Earth's ships fell back, drawing them in. Asteroids exploded. Formations shattered. Then Mason gave the signal. Now, Admiral. Human cruisers burst from concealment, flanking the enemy from both sides. The Caxians, confused and constricted, fell into disarray. Ships collided. With asteroids, crossfire erupted. Amidst the chaos, a new transmission appeared. Emperor Zork's eyes burning with fury. Mason, you dare challenge the might of the Caxian Empire? You will be destroyed. Mason's reply was like ice. Your empire's days are numbered. Surrender now, or be reduced to ashes. Zorks roared, never. We fight to the last. The transmission cut. All units, Mason barked. Focus fire on their command ships. Break their will. And they did. One by one, the Caxian fleet's leaders fell. What remained scattered like leaves before a storm. Captain, said Connor, breathless. Another transmission from the council. Patch it through. Chancellor Zor appeared, dimmed but not defeated. Captain Mason, the council has witnessed the battle. The Caxians are in disarray. We implore you, consider a ceasefire. Mason looked to his weary officers. They had fought valiantly, paid dearly. He turned back to Zor. We'll consider it, Chancellor. But hear me, well, if the Caxian ever rise against us again, we will be ready. Zor's glow brightened faintly, hope glimmering. Thank you, Captain. The council will work to forge a lasting peace. As the transmission ended, Mason addressed his crew. Prepare for the next phase. We've won this battle, but the future of the galaxy depends on what we do next. He turned back to the stars. The weight of every decision, every life lost, every hope born pressed against his chest. But he did not falter. Humanity had proven its strength. Now, it was time to prove its wisdom. The war had forged them now. It was time to shape the peace,